Welcome to MOR Cast, the intersection of motherhood and entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Shantae. This episode of MOR Cast is entitled Lend It and Watch What God Does. To lend is to give for temporary use on condition that the same or its equivalent will be returned. You may have lent money to your friends and loved ones with the understanding that they would pay you back at a certain time. You may have lent your talents in your community, understanding that it was a part of building up the community or an act of service. But what has God asked you to lend to Him? Mothers and entrepreneurs, have you lent anything to the Lord? Mother, have you lent your children to the Lord, asking Him to use them how He wants? Why should we lend our children, our talents, our gifts, or business to the Lord? When we lend something to the Lord, He will use it and then multiply it before He returns it to you. Our God will never ask us for more than He gives. There is a song that says, "You can't beat God giving, no matter how you try." Whatever God has asked you to lend to Him for His use will always come back as much more than you lent. In Luke 5, verses 4 through 11, Peter and his partners had been fishing all night without a catch. So they washed their nets and called it a day. Then Jesus asked to use the boat so that He could minister to the people on the shore. Peter consented in obedience, expecting nothing. Afterward, Jesus told them to launch the boat out into the deep and cast their nets. Jesus was asking Peter to go fishing again after catching nothing all night. Initially, Peter disagreed, saying, "We've been out all night without a catch." Then he said, "But at your word." When Peter obeyed, he received a net-breaking miracle. There were so many fish that Peter's net began to break. He had to call for a second boat. As the boats were filled, there were so many fish that the boats began to sink. Both boats came back overflowing with fish. What a miracle! What a testimony! They had more fish than they could imagine. It probably took all day to count them. Peter's submission to God provided a catch they had not expected. It was exceeding abundantly above all they could ask or think. Now remember, Peter was a skilled fisherman. He knew when the fish were biting and when they were not. No catch all night, yet Jesus asked him to try again. Some people would have declined based on their own expertise. Just imagine if Peter had declined Jesus' invitation to launch out into deep waters and let his net down again. What if Peter had not consented? Thank God he did, because if he had not consented, he would have missed his repayment for lending his boat to the Lord. And Jesus did not disappoint. This miracle was mind-blowing. In like manner, that is what God wants to do for you, mother, you entrepreneur. When you obey and lend what you have to the Lord, He will not leave you without. He will repay you for your obedience and your submission. He will repay you for allowing Him to use something of yours for His glory. In spite of what it looked like the first time, God is going to blow your mind with the repayment. But it's according to your consenting, your obedience. He asked Peter to use his fishing boat. Business had been slow that day before, but now Peter's business had experienced a windfall. Has He asked you for anything that is connected to your business? Is it your time, your talent, your treasure, or all of the above? Whatever it is, lend it to Him. Expect nothing, and watch what He does for you in return. Peter did not imagine that return, and you have no idea what your obedience would yield. Don't try to figure out what he said. Just do it by faith. In 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 8-15, the prophet Elisha passed through Shunem, and a wealthy woman noticed him and urged him to stay at her home and eat. After his first meal with the Shunammite and her husband, he ate there whenever he passed through. The Shunammite recognized Elisha as a man of God and petitioned her husband to build a room for him on the roof of their home, so he would always have lodging when he passed through their town. Her husband consented. The room was built and furnished. She offered him the space for his lodging free of charge because she wanted to bless the man of God. Elisha had been lodging at the Shunammite's house without charge for some time. Now he lay across his bed trying to figure out a way to bless the Shunammite woman. He asked his servant Gehazi what could be done for her. Gehazi called to her and he asked her. She could not think of anything. She said she had everything she needed. She did not think she had a need, but because she had lent a portion of her home to the man of God, he was trying his best to find a way to bless her. She made his load lighter. She had allowed him to stay in her home every time he was in town, no strings attached. Because of her, he never needed lodging in Shunem. It was guaranteed, and there was no charge. She did not ask for anything in return, nor did she expect anything. It was a kind gesture for the man of God. But he wanted to repay her for her kindness, so he asked Gehazi again. Gehazi said she doesn't have a son, and her husband is old. That's it! Elisha told Gehazi to call her again, and when she came to the doorway, Elisha told her that she would have a son by the next year. Imagine her shock and awe. Lending a portion of her home to the man of God had brought her a blessing that she had not expected. The Lord gave her a child, and not just a child, but a son. Someone who could help her husband in his business. Someone who could inherit the business. Someone who could take charge of her home. Someone who could take care of her in her old age and carry her husband's legacy. What a blessing! Mothers and entrepreneurs, what has God asked you for or asked you to do? Whatever it is, do it or lend it to the Lord and watch how He repays you for allowing Him to use it. God will pay you back, and His payback will far exceed what you have lent to Him. It will exceed your imagination. It will overfill your container, just as it did Peter and his companions, creating a windfall in your business. Even if you cannot identify a need like the Shunammite woman, God will find something you need in your home or your family that you did not expect. Like Elisha searched to bless the Shunammite woman. Your obedience and generosity to the Lord for His purposes will bring about a search for how to bless you. How can heaven fill your house or your business for what you have lent to God? Just lend it in obedience and expect nothing, and watch what your God does for you. You might be thinking you do not need anything, but God knows. And just as the prophet searched for a way to bless the Shunammite woman in repayment for the use of her home, God will find a way to repay you for what you have lent. If God is asking you for something, even if the request seems odd to you, just like it was for Peter, just do it in obedience. Peter received the net-breaking miracle for his fishing business. He had so many fish that he could take some time off if he wanted to, or pay off debts, or build up his savings account. The Shunammite became a mother, giving her husband an heir in his old age. Imagine the joy in their home. Remember, we can never beat God's giving. What have you lent to the Lord? Our God owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. He owes no one. Just as sure as you have lent it to Him, He will repay you. Whatever He's asked to use, I challenge you to lend it and watch what your God does. Thanks for tuning into this episode of the MOR Cast on Lend It and Watch What God Does. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time.